In this video, we're going to have a look at how to work with projects. So let's start by looking at how we can create a new project in the system. So you can come into a customer record or a lead record, anything in companies and contacts, open it up, and on the toolbar, we have the option to quickly create a project and throw one into the system. While we're on a customer record, we can also scroll over here to the Projects tab and see any previous projects that are linked to this particular customer. The other way of getting a project into the system is to expand the operations area and come into projects here and click on the add a new project button. But before we go and create a new project, let's look at some of the settings that we can configure at a system level. So if we come into the admin area, we come to settings and we jump into project settings, we can see that we've got three fields here that are drop-down lists that we can go and manipulate the options on those lists. So the type here, how you want to segment your projects, do they have different types? The category of project, you can also create multiple categories in here, and what the status of the project is. So what's your process basically? So this is where we get your terminology and your options into the system so that it's easy for users to work with projects, and it's also easy for you to pull them out and segment them according to some of those choices. So let's get stuck in and create a new project. In the subject here, I can type in the title of the project. So in this case, I'm going to have a building project. The system can automatically assign a project number, so a P- reference for me, or I can go and add my own project reference into that field. Now is where you can go and specify your type, your category. So those are both options that we looked at in the settings area a second ago, and make sure it meets your requirements. We can then go and select a customer, either a company or a contact, to go and link this to. So once I've chosen a company, it will then show me any associated contacts so I can select from them. As we looked at before, status is also one of the fields that you can go and customize, so I'll leave this one here as not started. It's also important that we have this active box ticked to signify that the project is open and active. Rather than deleting projects in future, you can just mark them as inactive. We also need to select an assignee. So that can be one of the teams or a user in your system. So in this case, I'll pick on John. You can see that the system is automatically going to populate this start date field with today's date. And we can use this end date field in conjunction with the person that the record is assigned to generate a project deadline notification that will show over here. So basically on that date, so if I go and throw an end date into the system, we'll pick the 15th of July. When John logs in on that date, he will get a project deadline notification on the 15th that he can click into and come straight through to the project. We've also got some additional date tracking fields here, so you can have a planned end date and a delivery date. If you've turned on time billing in your system, so that means you would have come into this admin area, into general, and down the bottom of the screen, we need to enable time billing in your system. So we've got some instructions on how to do that and set up products for that purpose, but that would need to be enabled here. You can basically go and select which product or billing type you want to apply to the project. We can also go and select a supplier from existing suppliers in the system. We can also go and put this project into one of the sales areas that we've set up. So those sales regions are populating from this settings area. In company and contact settings, there is a field called sales region. So it's basically just pulling the choices off this list. So if you haven't already done that, hop in here and customize those regions. We can also link this to an existing campaign that we've got in the system. So those are campaigns that live in the marketing area. We can throw in some address information for this particular project. So I'll just throw in a quick address here. And then I can put in some details about the project into this box here. So once I've finished entering all of my information into the system, I can hit on the Save and Close button and we'll have a look at what we can do with a saved project. So you can see it's given me the date information up here, start and end date. These are all the choices that I filled in earlier. And if I need to attach documents, I can just click on this paperclip icon and go and throw them in here. Now, it's also worth noting that if you're using our Inbox Insights program, so if you're using Outlook, you can download Inbox Insights so that you can push emails from Outlook into CRM. So quite often myself, I will get emails in my inbox that have attachments, and then I will go and sync those emails to a particular project. So that's getting the attachments into the system with minimal effort, and means that don't need to go and save them separately and then attach them. I can just sync the email across and all the attachments will come with it. You can see we've got the standard activity toolbar up here, so we can initiate a number of activities, and we've also got a timeline as we do on most other records in the system. Now, the benefit of using projects is we can have a lot of different things going on in CRM and group them together in one nice, neat project bundle. So by that, I mean we could have multiple quotes attached to this. We can have multiple opportunities, sales orders, invoices, payments associated with those invoices. We can also have tickets. We can have tasks. We can record time for tasks. So this can really be a hub for a range of different types of information. So anything that we create here, so any task, quotes, opportunities, sales, etc. that we create will all show in their respective areas of the system. So opportunities, tasks, in the sales area, quotes, orders, invoices, etc. So let's go through each of the options in a logical order and see how it works. So let's start with adding a note into the system. So this can be for a number of different reasons. Maybe we want to just record some information there quickly. We can go and add that and it will show straight away on the timeline area. We can also go and add a historical call record or future date a call and throw that in against the project. So we can specify whether the call is inbound or outbound. We can give it a subject. We can go and add people that will be attendees on the call, and we can go and select when that call is going to take place. So I'm going to future date this call and assign it to another member of the team. So once I put that information in the system and hit on save, a couple of things have just happened. So the system has now saved that and shown that call as a planned activity. So over on the side here, we can see that the call is sitting there. If we come up to the top of the record, that call is now appearing as the next step in the process for this project. So once the 14th of July comes and goes and that call is completed, it will remove itself from the next step, it will take itself away from the planned activity area, and it will show as a historical item here on the timeline. If we go to add a task into the system, we can also see underneath here, we have a tab where we can see all the associated tasks with a project. So when I go and create a new task, I've got the short form here, but I can also come down the bottom here to advanced mode and open the full task form if I'd like to. So in here, I can add the details of the task, go and pick the attendees or the people that are going to participate on this task, select a person in the system to assign it to. So I'll pick on Brett in this case and go and put in our start and end date requirements. So if I go and set that one for the 13th of July, pick a time, I can also set end and due dates. So with these dates, you can generate further notifications in the system that will come here and remind you when something needs to be done. So with regard to the start date, you can set a reminder interval and say, right, 10 minutes before the start of this task, Brett is going to get a notification in the system telling him it has to be done. You can also throw a due date into the project, which means that on that due date, that assigned person will also get another notification that the task deadline has come up. So once we've filled in the task details, we can hit on save and we can see that that will now show in the task tab. We can come back to the timeline and see that because that's a future dated task, the system has added it as a planned activity over here along with the call. Coming up to the top of the record, you can see that that phone call has now been replaced by the task as the next step, basically because the task is happening on the 13th, which is a day before the call. So it'll basically pick in date order the next event and go and throw that up the top over here. Now with your task, what you can do is, as we saw there, we have a start time, we have an end time, and we have a due date. But what happens if the task is going to take multiple amounts of time over the start and end period that we want to be able to track to know how much time we've spent in total? So if a task starts on the 1st of July and ends on the 15th, it doesn't necessarily mean that it took us 15 days to complete it. So what we can do is on a task, we can go and record time against it. So that means I can link this to the task and I can say, right, I started on this today and I worked on it for, half an hour or so. and throw that into the system and assign that work to a user. So that means that if I work on it for 30 minutes today, I could do 5 minutes tomorrow, I could do an hour next week, etc. And I'll be able to record all of that time against the task and then total up how much time has been spent. So we can now come back to the project and see that that time that I've just entered in against the task is showing here against the project. What we've also got is the system is now adding up how much time has been spent on activities so far. So it's added up the actual hours spent, and it's also said that we haven't billed for any of those hours. So that's where we would use this option to generate a time bill. So you can basically have different values for time assigned to all of these different activities and be able to pull that together and generate a sales order that's itemized with a list of activities that you can then bill a customer for. So coming back to the timeline, we can also go and create a meeting. So I can put the subject of the meeting in here, select who this is assigned to, go and pick the attendees of the meeting, so the people that I'd like to come along. And I'm also going to put that in as a historical meeting and say that it's already taken place. I can send invitations to that meeting if I want to. I can set a reminder for the person that it's assigned to as well, and save that into the system. So you can see that that's hopped onto the timeline here as a historical event that happened on the 14th of June. So one of the other good things about emails is that we can go and create a number of different email templates so that when we click on the email button here, we can select a pre-formatted template and send it and we're off. So you can manage those templates from this admin area down here by coming into the templates area and then clicking on email templates. So in here, email templates, and you can see that we've got email templates linked to a range of different areas in the system. There's not one currently for a project. So we can go and click on new email template, go and link it to a project, and then have that available for use when we click on that email button. So you just need to make sure that if you're sending emails out of CRM, you've done the configuration work properly. And by that, I mean you'll need to come into admin integrations, hop into email here and make sure that your SMTP email configuration is all done properly. We can also send an SMS from here. So the same way we can go and manage our SMS templates in templates here, SMS templates, go and create one and link it to a project so that we can quickly send one from here. Now with a project, we can have multiple opportunities attached to it. So in this scenario, it's a building and I'll probably be quoting on supplying materials to a range of different builders and contractors. So each of those builders and contractors could have their own opportunity. I could then differentiate between the opportunities, have multiple quotes, multiple sales orders and invoices, all linked against this project. So it's all in a nice, neat bundle. So clicking on the Opportunities tab here will show us any linked opportunities. If there aren't any, we can click on the Opportunity button here and get a new opportunity into the system. So I'll go and assign that to the finance team, give it a value of $5,000, put in the details in here of what's required, and give this a 50% procedure. So that has now saved here. What has also happened is if we hop into the Opportunities area of the system, we can see that a new opportunity has just been created there as well. So if you're working with opportunities, you can also link an opportunity to a project. So we can come into an opportunity, we can open it up, and you can see over here that we've got the related project, so we can click here and come straight back to the project again. So we can have as many opportunities listed against this for different people as we'd like. We can then also go and produce quotes, sales orders and invoices. So from each of these tabs, we'll be able to see ones that are already linked and initiate a new one. So with quotes, for example, if we come into the sales area and open an existing quote, what we can do is link quotes, orders and invoices to a project. So you'll see here we have a field where for that customer, it would show if there were any quotes in the system. So I'll change this to Cafe Suburban, and we can see here that we've got this new building project in here, and I can go and link that up. So that will work on quotes, orders and invoices where you've got that project field and it's for the same customer. So we can also have sales in here and link multiple ones, invoices, payments that are associated with invoices, etc. And we can also see tickets that are associated with a project, or we can go and add a new ticket into the system. Now coming back to the timeline area, we had a look at this planned activities area, but we've also got some options a little bit further down the page. So in this attendees area, I can go and pick other users in the database or another team in the database and go and add them into the project, basically saying that they are also a part of the project as well. So I can add as many people in there as I want. I can also go and add multiple contacts to a project. So in this case, there might be a site contact that I need to talk to about delivering materials or access to the site. So his name's Bob, and I can basically go and pick somebody in the system and go and link them up in here. So now that we've worked with our project here, let's go back and see what we can do from the main screen. So you'll see that we have a couple of different view selectors up the top here. So the view that you're in at the moment will be this sort of goldy yellow color. And this is list view, which is literally just giving us a list of all the records. We can also switch over into map view. So I've got this set as a heat map at the moment, but I'm going to colorize it by the project status. So basically, the further I zoom in and out on the map, I'll be able to see these little pins that are colored according to the project status. So I can click on the pin to find out more about who is there. I could also go and open up the calendar in this view. So the calendar for myself or any other user in the system, I can flick through to different dates and I can go and drag this project onto the calendar to set up a meeting for John to go and discuss this on the premises with the client. What I can also do is sort here by the different statuses of projects. So maybe I don't want to see cancelled or closed ones or others. I basically don't want to see completed. I just want to see stuff that's in progress at the moment. So we can bring that back and we can see that that pink one, the closed project, is gone and we've only got ones that are open in here at the moment. So we can also go and search here as a heat map. We can also go and apply different filters and filter them by different statuses. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, and this is a good way to go and visualize your data based on the location. The other option here we've got is Kanban view. So this is really, really good for working with projects in bulk. So these statuses across the top here, that's what we were talking about earlier when we were in this settings area down the bottom and project settings. So if I come back into settings and project settings, the statuses on this list are what you're going to see across the top here. So we can click here and decide which statuses we want to see. So maybe I want to get rid of cancelled or pending input. And then I can drag and drop records to change their status. So I can grab this one here, not started, and move it to pending input. I can grab another one and move it to in progress. And it's a really simple way of moving records between statuses without having to go and edit each record individually. If I'd like to, I can also go and look at these by who they're assigned to. So you can see it changes to a list of users, and then I could basically drag and drop it between different users to reassign the projects. From the main screen, we can also work with records in bulk in other ways. So you can see here we've got an add tag, update, delete, and add and remove from list options here. So let's have a look at what they do. So I can select all records or just go and select a few and go and add tags to them in bulk. So I might say that all of those are urgent projects and apply the tag. I can also open an existing project and see the tags that are linked to it and go and create new tags or go and add new ones. So that's just gone and added the new tag to it as well. If I wanted to update the values for multiple projects at once, I can do that. So same thing, I can select all the projects or I can just go and select a few of them. I can click on this update. Then I have access to all of the different fields on the project form. So I can pick some of these fields and go and update the values in bulk rather than having to do it per project. So in this case, what I might do is go and throw in a planned end date for these projects, the 12th of July, click on update, and that's gone and applied the change in bulk so that I don't need to go in and out of each of those. If I wanted to delete projects, same thing, I can select them and pick the delete button here. I can also open a project and go and click on the delete button here that will achieve the same objective. But as I was speaking about before, we can also just mark a project as inactive so that it's still in the system, but it's not currently an open active project. The next options, add to list or remove from list, mean that they're talking about the lists in the marketing area of the system. So if we hop in here to marketing and lists, you can see that I have two different lists of contacts in the system. So what I could do is basically take the contacts associated with these projects and go and add them to one of those lists. So I'll pick the grocery stores one. And now if I come back into those lists and open up the grocery store, what we'll see is that that contact has now been added against this particular list. The other button will allow me to remove contacts from a list. So I can then go and take them off the grocery list that I just added them to now, and that change will be automatically applied. So there's a couple of different ways to work with the records in bulk up the top here, as well as being able to quickly create activities from the activity bar at the top. Now, when it comes to working with projects on a day-to-day basis, I've only got 5 records in my test system here, but you will have tens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of records in the system. So we need to be able to break them down. So while we've got different view selectors, the easiest way of breaking them down according to criteria is to create different filters and different layouts. So for example, with a project, we can have multiple different people that it's assigned to, we can have a range of different dates associated with it, we can have different statuses, etc. So we can create filters to pull out information that we want to see on a regular basis. So next to the filter box here, I can click on New, and I'll basically do a view for projects due this month. Actually, I'll change that to next month and go and share that with my colleagues. So what I can then do is go and pick anything with a planned end date, and you can see here I can go and quickly and easily select next month and throw that into the system. So that's returned 2 results. So anytime I want to see projects due next month, I can basically just go and pick up one of those filters. So I can share them or I can have those privately. Now, you'll want to differentiate between closed projects, open projects, statuses, assigned to, start, end dates, etc. And depending on what you're looking at within the filter that you've applied, you'll probably want to change the layout to go with it. So a layout basically lets you save a configuration of columns so that it's giving you the appropriate information. So we can drag and drop columns into new locations. We can go and hide columns. We can go and add additional columns to our view. So I might go and add whether or not a project is active. And I might also want the campaign and who created it. So I can go and hit apply. It will go and add those columns to my view. And rather than them sitting over here on the end, I can go and drag them into new locations where it's going to be more useful. Once I'm happy with that configuration and the information that's shown to me, I can come here to the layout box and click on New next to it, and I'll just call that my project layout. And again, if I wanted to share this with other users, I can tick the shared box, or I can just leave it as my own view. So I can basically go and create as many filters and as many layouts as I need to be able to pull out information in usable chunks on a regular basis. And that brings us to the end of the section on projects.